special guest in the building. We got Jacob Williams up in this thing, man, on the Just Acting Up show. Let's clap it in for the good guy, man.
Hey, man.
What's up, Jake?
Appreciate it, guys. Thank y'all so much.
Man,
no, you good.
Man.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome, man. Thank you, like I said earlier, for taking time out of your busy day. I know you just got through finished training, man. So tell us a little bit about that, man. Tell us about yourself.
Man, I've done a little bit of everything and still do a little bit of everything. My dad was a Green Beret, so he's a Special Forces soldier. So I grew up, martial arts and firearms and, all that stuff. But also he was an artist. He drew and he did tattoos and stuff like that. So I had a little bit of that. And then my mom, she actually has a super high IQ. And she was big into English and reading and stuff. So I kind of fell in love with that. So I've done a little bit of everything, man, from combat oriented stuff to like scholarly type stuff. Like I used to write poetry and short stories and stuff like that. And then I would turn around and go to martial arts class or go to the gun range or whatever. So I kind of like all over the spectrum, I guess you could say, Renaissance type deal, if that's the way you want to look at it.
You good?
So that led to, a lot of different things. Now, currently today, I'm a police officer. I'm a strength and conditioning coach. I'm an MMA fighter. And then I am a hand-to-hand combat, handcuffing and baton instructor and a firearms instructor for law enforcement. And now doing movies and stunts. So doing a lot of different things. But everything kind of roundabout has a connection in a way, you know what I mean? And I acted stage acting from 3rd grade all the way up until I got into college, and just right out of high school became a firefighter. And when I was old enough to go into law enforcement, I moved over there, and I'm always staying busy, always trying to learn something.
Yeah, man, that's cool, man. Man, like I said, like Jake is a man of multiple hats.
Yeah.
And that's so, like, when you just went through all that, I look at my resume, I'm like, what have I done?
When I was in stunt training, I was like, man, I'm tired. But I'm like, but Jake, he got all this going on, and all I got to do is go to work. I can do this.
Yeah, man, I'm lucky enough that I'm one of those people that can't sit still, right? So if I don't have something to do, I'm going crazy. So I kind of find ways to fill that time with,
Cool.
Gotcha, man.
How is it? How's that balancing those different moving into those different spaces? Like, how do you balance all that?
Yeah, it gets hard, like I guess a rundown of my weekly schedule is I patrol at night from 11 o'clock at night to 7 in the morning, Monday through Friday. So on Mondays, I wake up normal time on Mondays because I don't work on Sunday night. So, but I'm trying to get my schedule together for the week. And then I have to be up at the Iron Den for our trainer meetings where we sit down, we just talk about what's going on with our classes, our clients, and all that. So that's usually around 3. And then by 5, it's time for me to start training clients. And then I have a class each day that I teach, a group fitness training session. I finish up at the Iron Den about 7:30. I change into my MMA stuff, go straight to the MMA gym, do training from about 7:45 to about 9:15. And then I go straight home, take a shower. If I have time to catch a nap, I'll catch a nap. If not, I'm out to patrol till 7 in the morning, get off at 7 in the morning. I go do another hour and a half worth of MMA. And then I go home, shower, I sleep until about 3 o'clock, and then I wake up and do it all over again. So that's Monday through Friday. And then Saturdays, I'm sleeping a little bit throughout the day on Saturday because I work Friday night. So I get off Saturday morning, do my training, go home, sleep, wake up, and then handle any other stuff I got to handle for that weekend. And then my kids live with their mom, but I get them on the 1st, 3rd, and 5th weekend of every month. So when I have my kids, I make sure I clear out that schedule for that weekend so that I can spend time with my kids and do the things with them. But on the weekends I don't have my kids, then those days are pretty much filled up with some stuff too. And then I go to the stunt training on Sundays, and that's kind of my weekly schedule all week, every week.
Man,
See,
crazy.
and that, see, man,
See, I'm tired.
see, that's what's so amazing about Jake, man. It's like, you know, I try not to complain too much about what I do, but
Yeah.
then you hear somebody else's story, and,
Yeah.
and you just like, man, and you just that balance and the way how you carry yourself and it all, and you do it with such grace, brother, and with
I
a
appreciate it.
positive mindset, bro. And that's why I really admire about you, homie. That's
Yeah,
all.
man, I appreciate it. You know, the one of the biggest things of why I do the things I do is, especially with my MMA, is to build that platform to reach more people. There's a lot of stuff that I hold near and dear to my heart when it comes to things that I want to be involved with, like children's cancer, autism, and things like that. My brother actually has Asperger's, which is a high functioning form of autism. So special needs people have a soft spot in my heart. Children's cancer, and you know, and also just what I'm trying to do within the law enforcement community. You know, law enforcement officers, they don't get a whole lot of hand-to-hand combat training, and a lot of the things that happen on the streets where force tends to escalate, a lot of it comes back with just not being comfortable in those types of situations because they don't have that training.
Yeah,
And
I was going to speak about that, Jake. Not to cut you off, when you had
no, you're good, brother.
when you told me the day we was on set, and I had ran that by my brother-in-law, because my brother-in-law, he's a cop. He worked for Precinct 4.
Okay.
And he was like, yeah, you know, that's exactly what needs. You know, let that be the gun. Let that be your last result.
Yeah.
You know, because he said most officers, they don't know how to use technical with combat. I was like, you know what, this guy that's a cop, and he was telling me the same thing of what you want to start. So yeah, go ahead. That was gonna be my next question, actually.
Yeah, man. So the thing is like, and I can't speak on every state because every state, their training legislation is different. But here in the state of Texas, we have TCOLE, TCOLE, which is basically the governing body of law enforcement within the state of Texas. So they decide what officers have to train in, how many hours they have to train in it, so on and so forth. So in the basic police officer academy to get your license, they only allot 40 total hours of hand-to-hand combat training. And most people who are coming in there have never really been in a fight, right? So that means I have 5 8-hour days to teach people how to properly use the baton, how to properly handcuff somebody, how to fight standing up, how to fight in the clinch, how to take people down, how to defend the takedowns, how to deal with people once you hit the ground. Like, it's a lot of information to cover in a very, very short amount of time. And on top of that, you know, the whole my life flashed in front of my eyes thing when somebody has like a life or death experience. So that is a real phenomenon. So if you think about it as a Rolodex, right? When you're in a life or death situation, that life flashing in front of your eyes is your brain literally trying to flip through memories to find a similar situation and how you got out of that situation. But if you've never been in that situation, that's when fight, flight, or freeze kicks in. So when you have people, say, like special forces soldiers, the reason that they're so calm and controlled in battle is because they've trained it over and over and over and over. So their brain knows how to handle that situation so they can keep control of themselves in those life or death situations. But if you've never been in those situations and you're not putting yourself in those situations constantly, your brain doesn't know what to do. So now your self-preservation is going to come out, and that's either fight, flight, or freeze. So if you have a very limited toolbox, you're going to go to the tool that you feel is going to save your life in that situation. And for a lot of people who don't have that hand-to-hand combat experience, the only thing their brain knows to do is, I have this gun, that's how I'm going to survive this situation. So the more training that police officers can get in how to deal with these combative situations, the deeper their toolbox gets, the more they have to pull from, and the more they learn how to control the adrenaline and the emotions of a life or death encounter.
Wow, that's really interesting, man. And I
never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's unfortunately, right now we have a divide, right? We have a divide between law enforcement and the community, and a lot of it comes from misunderstandings, not understanding, like, why do police officers do something the way they do it, but then the police officers maybe not understanding, well, why does this individual react this particular way? Because when we have those interactions together, we don't know each other. So I don't know your background, you don't know my background. So our backgrounds are going to determine the way that we handle certain situations. And luckily enough for me, I grew up most of my childhood in Las Vegas, and I grew up in the rougher side of Las Vegas. So I've lived both sides of the fences, right? So I tend to be able to relate a lot more to people on the street because I've been there before. You know, I understand that. So the way I handle situations is completely different because not only have I lived those situations, but I train every day, you know, 2 to 3 training sessions a day. So my ability to have that confidence, and there's a very fine line between confidence and cocky. You don't want to be cocky. You just want to be confident in your skill set. But my thing is, if I can talk somebody into a pair of handcuffs, that's a good day. Yeah. I don't ever go, and most officers never go to work hoping they have to put hands on anybody or do anything like that. Now, just like with any profession in the world, are there bad apples? Absolutely. There absolutely are. But there's bad apples in every profession. You know, there's doctors that operate on the wrong body part. There's doctors that do shady stuff behind closed doors. There's bad in everything. The problem is that if I were to be able to have officers on the mats multiple times a week, I'm going to find those bad apples. And the way I'm going to find those bad apples is through the training. Because when you start sparring and you have somebody who knows what they're doing and they're putting pressure on you and they're making you feel that pressure, I'm going to find those bad apples because they're going to be the guys that take training too far. If you take training too far, you're going to take things on the street too far.
That's pretty, so. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good, bro.
I'm saying that's pretty awesome that, you know, once you put somebody in that scenario of, like you saying, like putting them and training them on the mat, and you can find out because you've been there before and you get a good feel of it. And you're like, I see where this guy or this person, this woman, where they're going with this. You kind of can see how to handle it. And I think it's awesome that you know, this little story, this one person that I met on set, she was saying that her dad would always use his words, what I thought was amazing. And he never had to use any brutal force. You know, he was able to, you know, arrest that person, stay in contact with them. And when they got out, he would just see him on the street like, hey, and, you know, his daughter was like, who was that? Like, oh, just somebody I arrested. And she's like, they're nice with you. So, but just something I was thinking. But
and it, you know, it comes down to respect, right? I teach my cadets, if you can't control yourself, you can't control somebody else, right? And a lot of people understand, or, you know, they come in, they know I'm an MMA fighter, and they think that because I'm an MMA fighter, I must be fighting all the time in the law enforcement capacity. And then when I tell them, I'm like, hey, how many times in my 13-year career do you think that I have been in a knockdown, drag-out fight with somebody when I was the original officer on the scene? And that number is 0. Because when I show up on scene, I start down here. I'm gonna be respectful to you as long as you're respectful to me, right? So the only time my force is going to come up is going to be based on your actions. So if you're being respectful to me, if you're complying with what I'm asking you to do, then we're gonna have a nice, easy, like dealings with each other, right? Now, if you make me have to bring that force up, then I don't have a choice at that point, right? So I have a job to do. I signed an oath to protect my community by just enforcing the laws. I didn't write the laws. It's just my job to enforce them, right? And I completely understand the other side of the fence, right? The other side of the fence, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody messes up from time to time, right? And it's sometimes difficult to come to the understanding of, I messed up, now I have to deal with whatever the consequences are in that situation. So I understand both sides. So being able to talk to somebody and being able to bring that tension down is a huge skill that but that skill comes with confidence, right? I have that skill because I know that if this turns bad, I have the skill set to be able to handle that situation. So it allows me to be a little bit more calm in those situations.
That's really cool, man. And that's something that me working at MD Anderson, when I was in security, and we have our own police officers there. One thing that, because my dad is still a security guard there as well, but the one thing that, and it's crazy really thinking about it, like how my dad would talk to, me, his child, or his other kids, he'll be real calm and peaceful. Of course, it'll be in a stern way. And then how I see when I finally start working along beside him, and that's how I, talk to people. Even when I have a situation with them, I'm still cool, calm, collected, because I'm trying to find out how I can help the situation, how I can de-escalate the tension. And once you learn how to do that in a calm way and cool way, you get your answer and you're able to handle things. And I think it's really cool that you're able to do that. And that's where you approach the situations with that. So I applaud you on that, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. There's a very fine line, right? Because like I said, when I stop somebody, I have no idea who you are. If I pull somebody over in a car, I don't know who's driving that car, because most of the time the car has gone by so fast that I have no idea who's in that driver's seat. I don't know if it's a man, if it's a woman. I don't know anything about them. I just pulled the car over because I saw a violation. So there have been lots of mass murderers and serial killers over the years who have been caught on traffic stops. So when I'm approaching a car, the number one most dangerous call for law enforcement is domestic disputes. The number two is traffic stops. And that's because on a traffic stop, again, I have no idea who I'm dealing with. You could be soccer mom taking the kids home, or you could just be somebody who, may have killed their family and now you don't even know what they're capable of. You know what I mean? So depending on the cops' confidence and knowledge is going to determine how they handle a traffic stop. So if I have the confidence, I'm still going to approach that car timidly until I know what's going on inside that car, because I have no idea when I get to that. It could be somebody on their third strike. They don't want to go back to prison. So as soon as I get up to that window, they could have a gun waiting on me to pull the trigger. I have no idea. So it's a difficult job in that you have to be professional, you have to be respectful, but in the back of your mind, you have to be prepared for the worst case scenario when you get to that window. You see what I mean?
Right.
And I invite you guys sometime if y'all ever want to come down while I'm teaching the cadets to see some of the scenarios that I take these cadets through. And it might give you a little bit more understanding of why cops are the way they are, right? Like if you get pulled over, the biggest thing I can tell you is we just want to see your hands, because if I can see your hands, then I know there's no weapon that's a problem right now. So if your hands are on the steering wheel and you're just waiting for me to get there, and then you're just honest and respectful with me, things go so much smoother. Because again, I don't know who you are, and kids can kill people just as easily as an adult, and a woman can kill people just as easy as a male can. So, but as long as I can see your hands, and as long as there's no overt movements being made and things like that, it brings the tension down, right? And it just helps that interaction go so much easier. So when I was pulling people over, I was looking for dope warrants and guns. That's what I'm looking for. So the issue is with traffic stops is if you can't hit home runs if you don't swing the bat, right? So if I don't stop vehicles that commit violations, I'm never going to catch any of the big crime, right? So I pull that car over. I'm doing my investigation because I'm trying to see, do I have just a normal everyday citizen, or do I have something big on my hands, right? And most of the time, if people were just honest with me and respectful with me, I didn't give any tickets. I was like, hey, this is the violation, correct this, please. Whatever, have a nice day. Because I'm out looking for people who need to be in jail. You see what I mean? Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question, because I want to get into some of your other stuff with the MMA and the stunt training. But I have a question as far as, over the past year especially, and over the last few years, between particularly the Black community, we've seen a lot of distrust that's garnered between the police in our community. And so, um, is there anything that you can share that you can see on your end that's being done, or what do you think can be done to repair that relationship between trusting police and the Black
You
community?
know, it's really going to take conversation. I mean, that's how that's how everything in our society gets fixed. But it has to be civil, adult, respectful conversations, and it has to be open-minded, right? It has to be, you know, if any side of the party goes in there with any preconceived anything, you're going to hit walls, right? And that's why, you know, I'm all for having these conversations and stuff. And it's unfortunate where we've gotten, and really the only way to fix it is just going to be having those conversations and finding people who are willing to have those conversations from both sides. There was actually, I can't remember his name, but I can find the video and send it to you, James. There was a Black Lives Matter leader, I think it was in Arizona, who he went to the local police department and they took him through some use of force training so that he could be put in scenarios that officers find themselves in. And it was a beautiful thing, because at the end of the video, both sides came to an understanding of what's going on with each other. But that's because they went in open-minded, right? It wasn't about the cops proving a point, and it wasn't about him coming in and trying to find a way to, you know, make the cops seem like the bad guys. It was both of them being open to each other and saying like, hey, this is what we have to deal with. Let you experience it and see if you could have handled it in a different or better way. And then they came to that understanding. And, you know, it really like, the race stuff is a really hard thing for me to deal with, just because I don't see race. You know, I don't understand why we're not all just Americans. Like, to my thing is that if you live in this country, if you're an American, you're an American. It doesn't matter. And it really hurts me that, you know, so many people are still see the way they see things. And but it's never going to get there unless we start having those conversations. And we got to be more in the spotlight with those conversations too, you know. Like right now it seems like everything that's on the TV is all about how much division there is, but there's a lot of togetherness too. It's just nobody's putting spotlight on the togetherness. So if you're constantly being fed the negative, everybody's going to go the negative route. So
like I'm sorry, I didn't cut you off.
Yeah, no, you're good, brother. You're good.
Like when well, I think both me and you posted on the, like, this week actually, about Remember the Titans.
Yeah.
Like it was and I wanted to ask you about what was your favorite movie that got you into acting as well too. But we both posted, I think just this week, saying that that everybody needs to sit down and watch that movie, Remember the Titans, because we were able to accomplish so much. Like, you saw what the team was able to accomplish so much. You know, working as a team together and seeing like, hey man, of course we have a different race, but you know, we all got one same goal, and they're trying to win that championship. And same thing with us, like we just trying to survive, I guess, or trying to overcome these obstacles. And,
Absolutely.
And getting into the next part of my question, what was your favorite movie, or your favorite movie, favorite action movie that got you into acting, that got you like, yeah, I want to do this, man?
Man, I got so many movies, and the funny thing about me is you would think that like action movies, like that would be my thing, right?
Yeah.
I love emotional acting.
Really?
I like that's my favorite. So and it's just because so much of human nature is based around emotion, right? And I love it when actors, even artists, right? Like photography, painting, when you're able to catch something or paint something that the second that you look at it, it brings out an emotion. Like to me, that's very talented. So in the acting world, if you're able to put yourself in character in the moment and make your audience feel what they're supposed to feel from that situation, like to me, that's the best part of acting. So I think of scenes like in Tombstone at the end of the of the movie when Doc Holliday's in his deathbed and him and Wyatt Earp are having that moment.
Ooh, yeah.
I think about that. You know, I think about you know, Braveheart when he's laying on that cross and he's about to be tortured just because he wants freedom for his people. You know, I think about Remember the Titans. I think about when Gary's in the hospital, you know, and Julius comes in and he's like, hey, can't you see that's my brother? You know, like those are scenes that matter to me because, you know, and that's one of the things I said, like, I don't never will see race. You know, if somebody's my brother, they're my brother regardless. So I love scenes of like massive respect and things like that. That's really what makes me want to act.
Gotcha. So who's your favorite actor then? And it was another thing too that I wanted to say. Like, it was crazy. Like, so like I said, Jake is a man of many hats, y'all.
Yeah.
He told me that he did ballroom dancing, and he also said that, I think, was it, correct me if I'm wrong, you said that you have like a Viking bloodline as well in your family?
Yeah, I remember he said that. Now that you brought that up,
Is that true? Or
yeah. So my heritage is we're from Denmark and northern Germany and Scandinavia on my mom's side of the family, and we're from Ireland and Scotland on my dad's side of the family, but we got so much Native American. So my mom's side of the family came from Denmark, northern Germany, Scandinavia. They came over and they married into the Native Americans. My grandmother is actually full-blood Native American.
what?
And so they married into the Cherokees, the Choctaws, and the Creeks. And then my dad's side of the family, when they moved over here, they married into Apache and Comanche bloodlines. So that I always tell people I got nothing but warrior blood in me, right? Like I'm Viking, I'm Celtic, I'm Native American, you know.
Yeah.
So
that's what's up.
but yeah, you know, it's and I love learning about my heritage. I love learning about all cultures. That's one of the amazing things about America is we have such a melting pot of cultures that you can learn such amazing things, and we all have something to provide to the other. And the funny thing is, growing up in Vegas, you know, on the West Coast in the 90s and the early 2000s, that's when, you know, rap was really taking off. And I remember, you know, on the streets, my friends doing ciphers and battles and stuff on the streets. And, you know, ironically enough, it comes from Scandinavian culture. So in Scandinavian culture, you had something that was called flighting. And what flighting is it's insults delivered in a specific rhythm to music back and forth to each other. But when you do it, I'm supposed to match your cadence. I'm supposed to match your syllable scheme and we go back and forth. And part of the reasoning for that was if you were very good at flighting, that means you were a quick thinker. So then on the battlefield, you were going to be a quick thinker. So ancient Scandinavian culture actually had rap battles back in the day, believe it or not.
That's cool, man.
They actually brought it up in Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Yeah,
I haven't played that game yet.
Yeah, it's cool, man. I got to that point. I think that's when I got to finish playing that game. I remember it was that guy that he started switching poetry or something like that with that.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's like,
Right when you start saying that, I start thinking about, like, wait a minute. Like, so that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, when they announced that game, I was super excited to see how much of actual Viking culture was put into that game. And they actually did a really good job with a lot of the stuff, even though, you know, they never did. So the word Viking doesn't have anything to do with where you're from. The word Viking is a title. To go on a Viking means you're going raiding. You're a raider. So not all Scandinavians were Vikings. Only the ones that got in the ships and went to go do raidings were actually Vikings. Everybody else was Norwegian, Dane, you know, the Scandinavian countries.
That's so cool, man.
Who's your favorite MMA fighter?
George St Pierre, without a doubt. And the reason for that is, you know, a lot of people love George because he's one of the best fighters of all time. I love George because he was one of the men who embodied what it meant to be a martial artist. To him, it was all about respect. It was all about honor. He never had anything bad to say about his opponents, even if they were trash talking him. and he was a true champion. You know, when he tore his knee when he was still a champion, a lot of professional athletes would have been rehabbing their knee on a beach somewhere, or, you know, something like that. George was still at TriStar helping guys who hadn't even made it to the UFC yet, giving them pointers and helping them out. And, you know, just leading by example, right? I think that's another thing in today's society. You know, we don't have enough real leaders who lead from the front and do it by example. We have everybody that wants to sit in the back and they just want to, you know, holler stuff instead of like, hey, you know, instead of just talking about this and
Right.
hooping and hollering, like, why don't you get up in the front lines and do something, you know? And we need more doers nowadays, you know?
Yeah.
Cool.
How has it been with stunt training and MMA fighting? How's that's kind of how they helped each other? How have they helped you in each area? Do they kind of work together because they're kind of close in things?
Yeah. So when we first came into Stunt Group and they had us doing like break falls and forward rolls and stuff like that, we do that in martial arts. We do that that's part of our warm up. Whether you're doing Krav Maga, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, they're very similar skill sets. And then, you know, I'm hoping to start it back up again. But there for a little while, I was actually inviting any of our people from the Stunt Group down to my martial arts gym where I train at, and I was teaching them martial arts because, you know, if you get on, say you get on set and you don't really know, the basic strikes, and you have a stunt coordinator that's like, hey, I want you to throw a jab to the head, a cross to the body, and a hook to the head. Well, if you don't know what a jab, cross, and a hook is, and you don't know how to throw them, you're going to look silly on set. And then you might not get called back to be a stuntman again, because the director may look at you like, why would I hire you? You don't even know the basics of what I'm talking about. So when I noticed that some of the people in our stunt group, you know, hadn't really been martial artists or anything like that, I was like, well, you know, here's a way that I can sew back into the group and just let them come down free of charge. Doesn't cost them anything but their time. And I'll teach them some of the basics of martial arts so that now when they go onto a movie set, they have that little bit of knowledge to help them out in that situation.
I'm smiling because I remember one class, it was you and another guy. Who's the other guy? He's really tall. He has a bald head.
Oh, Brad.
Oh yeah,
Brad.
yeah.
Yeah, Brad is. Yeah.
They paired them up, and I was like, "Oh God, something." It's like this is the clash of the Titans.
Hey man, if size and strength was all that mattered, the elephant would be king of the jungle, not the lion.
Yeah, man. It's like, man, I need to sell some pay-per-view tickets.
And Brad knows stuff too, man. Brad.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
man.
Nicest guy, both of them, Jake and Brad, and like I said, you know, Jake done ballroom dancing, man, and MMA fight. He's light on his feet. He move quick for a big guy, man.
You know, I always said I'm going to be the first male fighter to win Dancing with the Stars. That's one of my goals.
That's what's up, and I believe you're going to accomplish that too.
That would be so cool.
You know, the more things that we experience in life, you know, the fuller that life is going to be. So many people think that, you know, life is always about what you obtain from a monetary standpoint, but it's really, what do you obtain from a learning standpoint, and what do you pass on to the next generation?
Yeah.
Because that's what really matters. And so I enjoy sewing back into people. I've had some people throughout my life that have helped me and done things for me, and I like to be able to turn around and give that back, you know.
That is so awesome, man.
You're awesome, Jake.
Yeah, man. We're gonna talk about a little bit of music and get you out here, man. So we know that you I know, well, I'm a subscriber on your YouTube channel, the MMA Dad, and I see, you know, music is so beautiful and so powerful. Like, one thing that my dad taught me when I was a kid that I'm surprised I remember, he said because my dad would play different type of music. Like from Queens to Michael Jackson to a little bit of rap, a little bit of everything. And he told me that, you know, you better get used to listening to different music, especially when you're in the car with me, because you're going to be in the car with somebody else that's listening to something that you just can't stand. So that got me into like that jazz, right? Like, I listen to jazz now, like when I cook or clean up, from rock and roll to everything. And when I looked at your YouTube channel, and I see you jamming out the music, I'm like, oh man, even if I don't know the name or haven't heard of them before, I'm still enjoying it because it's just that music just breaks barriers and just brings everybody in to like, hey, what you listen to, man? Like that's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So the reaction channel thing kind of blew up there for a little while, about a couple of years ago. And I remember the No Life Shack was the first guy that I saw, right? And you know, my family predominantly grew up listening to country music, rock and roll, things like that. But then growing up in Vegas, you know, I grew up in the hip hop culture, and my friends were listening to all of that. And I fell in love with the lyricists of hip hop. I fell in love with their ability to bend the English language and make the language do what they wanted the language to do. You know what I mean? And I also love people, whether I agree with their stance or not. I love people who know what they believe and they stand their ground. And so even if I don't agree with your message, I can appreciate you as a person for having your belief and not conforming just because other people don't like your belief. So I always enjoyed that part about music. And No Life Shack, I started watching him because, you know, he would caption some of his things like Black man listens to country music for the first time, and he's listening to a music that I love, right? So I'm like, oh, let me see what he thinks about it, you know. And then he's such an awesome guy. He's such a genuine guy. And when I saw that music breaking that barrier, like you said, where he's like, oh, this is what country music really sounds like, and see him start to enjoy the music, I just started looking up other reactor channels and I started watching them. Like I'm a big fan of Stevie Knight. I'm a big fan of Twain TV, and just watching these guys open their minds to different types of music. Right. So then I ran into like Ryan Upchurch, Adam Calhoun, these guys that were 100% independent artists, Tom McDonald. And I started seeing that the big music labels were shadow banning these guys because they were being successful without the record labels behind them. And so the record labels were flexing their, you know, monetary muscles and getting YouTube to like Tom McDonald had a video that hit like over 1 million views in less than 24 hours, but suddenly it wasn't trending on YouTube. And that's because the record labels don't want people to see you can do this without me. So when that happened, I was like, you know what? I love watching reaction channels. I'm going to make a reaction. I'm going to start doing music reaction, but I'm only going to react to independent artists. And I want to help spread these independent artists' music and message to people who might not be hearing it because they just don't know about it. And that led to also listening to music from outside the United States. So bands like Nightwish that come from Finland and the Netherlands, and Love Bites, and these other bands that they're out of Japan, and it's just amazing music, and I really love it. So I started doing those reactions, and people from all over the world, like 30 some odd countries now that I have subscribers from, that they just tune in because they want to hear my opinion on the music that they love. And they've opened my eyes, because in the comment section they're like, hey, if you like them, you need to check out this band. And then I'll go check out that band. I'm like, wow, this is amazing music. And it's all music that's not pushed here in America. So I feel sad because so many Americans are missing out on amazing music just because it's not getting the push that it needs to get.
I remember when I used to work at the pipe yard with this guy. He was a Mexican, right? And he used to play, before we got our shift started, he started off with playing Tejano music. And you know, I'm not gonna listen to that, right? So he's not gonna listen to my channel. So we made a mid ground where he put on the Eagle. Now at the time I knew classic rock a little bit, but not that much. Well, what I see on TV or what I hear on the movie. Now back then I used to listen to Nirvana, Metallica, and Red Hot Chili Peppers, and and someone else, 9 Inch Nails, right? Because back in the day they had the Headbangers Ball. I don't know if you remember that show, right? That came on after Yo MTV Raps. So, so I just stayed watching that. But I never tapped into classic rock music until that day, and it just kept going on. Like I can find myself turning to it because that's 12 hours, 7 days a week. 12 hours every day listening to the classic rock Eagle station. And it's like now I know every single song, every lyric, every like Led Zeppelin, you name it, Tom Petty. The list just goes on. So whenever there's like a lot of white people and they play that song, I start to humming to it, they start to looking like
but you know, like, the main thing about music is if you ask Lil Wayne, right? Who some of the influences were, I guarantee you there's going to be some of those early rock bands that are going to come in there.
Exactly.
Because music leads into other music, right? So like I think about NF. I really like NF's music. And I think about the way that he brings orchestra into hip hop beats.
Right.
But now people might hear that and be like, man, those violins or those strings, they sound really good. And that might lead people to look at orchestra music. And now all of a sudden they found some music that they really enjoy.
Right.
Man.
Awesome, man.
Man, Jake, you're awesome, bro.
I appreciate it.
I appreciate you for this, man. We're going to get you out of here. I know you got to get some rest, some type of rest, and get your mindset right and everything. I wish we can sit back and chop it up and talk and just have this conversation over a beer or whatever it is that Jacob Williams drinks, man, or water or whatever.
Been drunk, but
hey, cool, man.
I have one more question before I let you go, real quick. What's your favorite football team?
Dallas Cowboys, man. I grew up with Cowboys.
All right, Cowboys, yeah! The Cowboys and the Steelers is in the building.
You know, my family's from Central Texas, right?
Yeah.
My dad's side of the family's from Central Texas. My mom's side of the family's from Alabama, Georgia. So I came home in a Cowboys blanket. My dad's a big Cowboys fan. And I always tell people I've stuck with them through the good times and the bad times.
Preach. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's right. You hear that, you Texan fans, James and Chris? Y'all got to stick through the bad times, okay? Me and this man, the Cowboys got 5 championships? 5, right?
Long time ago.
Yeah, long time ago. We got 6, okay? So y'all just hang in there, okay? It's gonna be all right.
You know, the thing is, at the end of the day, I'm a Texan, right? I'm a big Texas pride person. So if Houston's not playing Dallas, I'm rooting for Houston. Just like if A&M's playing somebody other than UT, I'm rooting for A&M, because at the end of the day, Texas is my state. I love being from Texas, and I'm going to support any team that comes out of Texas.
I love being from Texas too, but just not that football team.
You and my dad will get along just fine. We get along just fine, man. I thought Emmitt Smith was my uncle when I was a kid, man. Like my dad talked about him so much, man.
Hey, man, Emmitt Smith had an amazing nugget of information. They won their first Super Bowl, and he did a commercial. And in that commercial, he's laying down bench pressing, and he said, "I won the Super Bowl, so I can rest now, right?" And he stopped resting, and then he started benching again. He rested for a short amount of time, and he said, "All men are created equal, but some work harder in preseason." So that's why you got to keep grinding, man. You keep grinding, you're going to get great places. And Eric Thomas, if you've never heard Eric Thomas, the hip hop preacher, go on YouTube, type in Eric Thomas motivational. He's one of my favorite motivational speakers of all time. And he talks about that commercial from Emmitt Smith. And if you've never heard Eric Thomas, you guys are going to find a rabbit hole to go down, because he's got amazing, amazing content.
Well, whatever you got going on, Jake, is working. So yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna check him out.
And before we let you go, tell everybody.
Actor was, and I have a lot of favorite actors, but one of my all-time favorites is Denzel Washington. I think that man can play any role you put in front of him. He's gonna knock it out of the park, man. He was always one of them growing up.
Before we let you go, tell everybody where they can follow you or they can find your channel.
On YouTube, it's just the MMA Dad. And then on Instagram, it's the.mma.dad. And that's pretty much the two main places. I just started a photography Instagram because I kicked off photography and cinematography again, kind of a hobby of mine. And that one's called Forged Light, like FORGED Light. And that's just because eventually I'm going to get back into blacksmithing. I used to do it with my dad. We used to make knives and stuff like that. And so the business that I kind of created is called Forged FC, Fitness and Combat, because I forge combat athletes. I forge people into better, healthier lives. And when it comes down to photography, at the end of the day, we're just taking light and we're turning it into pictures. So we're forging light into works of art. So that's kind of the way it works.
Nice.
Nice.
I told you guys, man of many hats, man. Once again, Jake.
Man, Jake, we appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, thank y'all for having me. We'll have to sit down sometime when all this crazy stuff's over.
Man, we have no choice but to, man. We got to.
Yeah, man.
Once my schedule,
I'm always down. Always down.
Appreciate it, man. And once my schedule lightens up on Saturday after June, I'll be joining you at the den, man. So
yeah, man, come down.
Will do, brother. So you be safe out there. Thank you. Blessings to you and your family, man.
Thank you.
Keep going, man. I'll see you on set soon.
Oh yeah, I'll be there. All right, guys. Okay.
All right.